What do you think it is that makes live music such a powerful way to connect with a destination?
I think of music sometimes like food. It's a good way into a destination. It's the soul of the place. You know, if you went to Cuba, you'd go and have amazing food in Havana, but you'd also want to go to Santiago and check out all the fantastic music. That's the kind of soul of the place.
Do you feel like when you're somewhere else and you hear that kind of music, you're instantly kind of transported back to Bourbon Street or Cuba, like you said?
Oh, absolutely. I went and saw Vivaldi performance in a tiny church in Venice.
That gives me goosebumps because I know what that sounded like.
It just felt like everything came together, you know, the history and the religion and the music and the beauty of the place. You know, we took a little gondola up to it and it just, you know, said, well, we could do that. Or we could go and see the Sex Pistols in Las Vegas, which seemed quite sort of unlikely.
Very different.
Yeah. And honestly, I was a bit dubious about it because I wasn't really a fan of Las Vegas, but suddenly Las Vegas made sense, having seen that show, which was brilliant.
Welcome back to Traveling with AAA. I'm your host, Angie Orth, and today I'm here with musician and travel writer Edmund Vallance, and we are going to talk about all the amazing places in the world you can travel specifically for music. We're actually in one of America's best music cities right now, New York City, at the Virgin New York Hotel. And as you can see behind us, it's gorgeous. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Angie. Lovely to be here. Thank you for having me.
Well, thanks for your time. I can't wait to talk about all the music destinations in the whole wide world with you.
Yeah, let's do it.
From iconic venues like the Hollywood Bowl and Red Rocks to intimate jazz clubs and the music museums that preserve our sonic history. It's time to let your ears lead the way. I think this is going to be a really fun conversation because we both love to travel and we both love music.
Absolutely.
So this one could go on a while. I might have to set a timer.
Okay.
How do you think, we'll start here. How has your relationship with music shaped the way that you explore the world?
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, firstly, I would say I can't really travel without AirPods. I can't do airports without AirPods.
No.
So I'm constantly listening to music when I'm traveling. I feel like that's part of travel. Also, I mean, just in terms of where you choose to go, I think music can affect you kind of subliminally. Yeah. You know, I'm often in a place and I think, I love this. Why is that? Well, it's because the music's so good. Or on the other hand, you know, why do I feel so uncomfortable even if the place is amazing? It's because the music's rubbish, you know?
Yeah.
So I think sometimes it can really affect, you know, the hotels or the restaurants you might end up in, you know? I think also I'm just on the lookout for live music, you know, whether it's, you know, it could be the Albert Hall or it could be a dingy kind of East London club, doesn't really matter, but I'm definitely, you know, I try and work in some live music to each trip if I can.
Well, that's a good way to plan a trip. And I think we're going to talk about that, like planning a trip specifically around music.
Yeah.
What do you think it is that makes live music such a powerful way to connect with a destination?
Yeah, I mean, I think of music sometimes like food. It's a good way into a destination, you know. I think it's the soul of the place. You know, if you went to Cuba, you'd go and have amazing food in Havana, but you'd also want to go to Santiago and check out all the fantastic music. You know, that's the kind of soul of the place, I think. And I think it's also a kind of good way, it's a sort of conversation starter, you know, with strangers you can bond over a band or an artist you love, you know, even if you don't know them from Adam, you know.
Yeah, well, and you can connect with that with almost anybody.
Yeah.
Find somebody you have music in common with, and you can talk to them at a very long layover at the airport.
You can indeed. Yeah, exactly.
Well, and do you find that going to a place and connecting to it through music, because that is one of your travel priorities?
Yeah.
Do you feel like then when you're somewhere else and you hear that kind of music, you're instantly kind of transported back to Bourbon Street or Cuba, like you said?
Oh, absolutely. I lived in New York for a little bit. I was lucky enough to stay here. And since I've been back this time, I've been listening to Miles Davis' Bitches Brew, because I just feel like it's sort of really frantic and sort of adrenalized music that makes me think immediately of Manhattan, and I'm just taken back to when I lived here sort of 10 years ago.
Yes.
Immediately transported, yeah.
I love listening to whatever I was listening to the last time.
Yeah.
Because it does. It takes you immediately into 10, 20 years ago and who you were then and what was going on in your life and why that music mattered.
Yeah, it's like perfumes or smells, take you straight back. Yeah, I feel like music's definitely like that.
Well, so how do you think that traveling for live music specifically can be a source of inspiration?
Inspiration for travelers themselves? I think in lots of ways. I mean, you could travel for one specific show, and that could be, the cornerstone of your trip. Or, I mean, one trip I did that I loved was going to Austin, Texas for South by Southwest one year. I think it was 2009, perhaps. I played one show there, which was great fun. But beyond that, seeing all these artists I loved in, tiny venues. And these are kind of, stadium acts like Lou Reed and, Echo and the Bunnymen. And I think, who else was playing that year? REM, in a sort of 2,000 seater where usually they'd be playing, I don't know, 150 times that perhaps. So that was a nice way into Austin. I'd never been before. And suddenly I kind of, cliched as it may sound, fell in love with that city, through that festival.
That's such a great event.
Yeah. It was fun.
And so you play guitar, right?
I do, yeah.
And so you got to play at South by Southwest?
Yeah. It was a sort of showcase show, and it was in a relatively small club, but it still felt good to be sort of part of that.
I mean, you can kind of say that you were out there with REM,
Exactly.
You played with
on
REM.
On a par with Michael.
Yeah, I mean, same place, same time. It counts for me. So talk about sort of historical relevance. We've mentioned a little bit, you could plan a trip around a concert.
Right.
Which I've done a lot of that.
Yeah.
The Eras Tour is a good example. People traveling all over the place to go to the Eras Tour, or Beyonce, you go see Beyonce in Sweden, or people, that's becoming a way to get cheaper tickets.
I mean, I think it's changing. I think, I've got teenage kids. They listen to their favorite artists on Spotify. They see the live dates, and then they want to go and see that artist.
AAA and Bread Financial did a report in 2024 that said, this is crazy, more than half of Gen Z travelers have or plan to head to live events by plane,
right?
Which that's the most of any generation. We talked about that. Like you have kids, they're just gallivanting and booking flights and tickets. And, that's unusual, at least from our perspective as older generations. So what do you think is driving this?
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's sort of mega fans. I remember a friend of mine from Scotland would follow U2 around the world. To see them in Dublin and Paris, and this was in the, I guess, late 80s. But I think that was quite rare then. My kids, are kind of, I think that generation are unfazed by travel in a way that
truly
we probably weren't in the same way.
Truly.
And I think of my grandparents, who may have gone to Spain or France, but, they lived in Scotland and they holidayed in Scotland.
Yeah.
But for music, I think it's such a great way to travel, isn't it?
That's a good point, because I have traveled to see shows with my parents.
Right.
And I have traveled to see shows with my little sister.
Right.
So we're seeing different things. Like this summer, I'm coming back to New York to see Rush. At Madison Square Garden.
Nice.
And I can't wait. I'm so excited about that show.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be coming to New York. I mean, New York's a different kind of example because I've lived here, but I wouldn't be coming here if not for the show. So I'm going to make a whole weekend out of it.
Excellent.
And visit friends and check out restaurants. And then I will always remember the weekend we went to Madison Square Garden to see Rush.
Yeah.
You know, like it's again, a core memory.
Good bonding experience.
Genres.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, I took my kids to see Oasis, and, that sort of common love of that music is powerful, I'll never forget it.
It really is. That multi-generational connection when you can like the same artist that your parents do, or it's special.
Yeah, and they think most of the things I listen to is really square and awful.
Which is why it's extra special when you can go to a concert and actually both appreciate it as a core memory.
Yeah, that's a night I'll always remember, to sort of bond with them over music that we have in common.
Well, let's talk about the Sex Pistols in Las Vegas.
Let's talk about that.
You
yes.
said that was like a life-changing experience. Tell me.
Well, it's how it came about was kind of funny, because my wife was quite heavily pregnant at the time, and it was a sort of last hurrah, our last time to have together before the baby arrived. So I said to her, we could go up the coast, amble up from LA. And she said, well, we could do that. Or we could go and see the Sex Pistols in Las Vegas, which seemed quite sort of unlikely.
Very different.
Yeah. And honestly, I was a bit dubious about it, because I wasn't really a fan of Las Vegas. I'm rubbish at cards. I'm not a gambler. I didn't have great experiences before, but suddenly Las Vegas made sense, having seen that show, which was brilliant. It's sort of having, as I say, that cornerstone event. Kind of made it, and then I could enjoy the city and have a different view on the city, really.
Yeah, Vegas is a great place to plan a concert trip around. Fun fact, the first time my family went to Vegas, we were kids still, and we went as a family to see the B-52s.
Oh yeah,
and that's such a core memory.
Yeah,
seeing the B-52s with my little siblings and my parents in Vegas, it was just...
I love the B-52s. I saw them at Disney World one year. Yeah,
that's
they
amazing.
were brilliant. Yeah,
they're a blast. Yeah. And then I'm going to see No Doubt in Vegas because the Sphere exists now, and I'm dying to go to a show there. Me too. So I'm like, why not? Let's check that one out.
Well, let me know how it goes, because I want to go there too. Actually, I'm desperate to see the.
I will.
Sphere, yeah.
I really can't wait. Can you share a live music experience in a specific location that gave you a deeper understanding of the destination?
Yeah, I can. I can't remember the name of the venue, unfortunately, because it was a while back. But it was I went and saw Vivaldi performance in a tiny church in Venice one year.
Wow,
yeah,
that gives me goosebumps, because I know what that sounded like.
Yeah. It just felt like everything came together. The history and the religion and the music and the beauty of the place. We took a little gondola up to it, and it just, it suddenly all just meshed. And I was like, oh, suddenly, okay, I see what all the fuss is about.
You were feeling it.
Yeah. I felt like I had an understanding. I don't think I did necessarily have an understanding, but it felt like I did,
Well, it definitely makes those connections in your mind.
Right.
Whether it means anything or not, it sure feels like something for you.
Right.
It evokes a feeling in you.
For sure.
Okay, so you're based in LA.
I am, yeah.
What are your essential LA music venues?
There's a lot. There's a few on the Sunset Strip, close to my heart, The Viper Room, I played there a bit when I first came to LA. And
humble brag. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, well, I don't know. It was a lot of fun, and it's always a fun time. I think they're in danger of closing, actually, sadly. But
that would be a crime.
Yeah, but you think Tom Petty and Johnny Cash, and they've got a proper history, and obviously poor old poor River Phoenix. So it has this slight dark tinge to it, but that's a great venue, and I hope that they don't close. The Roxy up the road is another great venue. I think the United Theatre downtown is beautiful. That sort of Spanish Gothic architecture is really beautiful. Where else? The Hollywood Bowl is a favorite.
That's on my bucket list. I haven't seen anything there.
Yeah, I love that place. It just feels wonderful to be outside.
Well, and the weather's great most of the time in LA, right?
Yeah, I mean, I said I took the kids to Oasis, and paid a lot for those tickets, but I kind of was behind a wall a bit, But with the Hollywood Bowl, it sort of doesn't matter where you sit; you're always going to have a good view of the artist, because it's that kind of amphitheater setup. So, and the acoustics are always
Who have you
amazing.
seen there?
Who have I seen there? I've seen Diana Ross. Oh, it was
amazing.
Good. Yeah. I've seen, I saw David Gilmour play, Pink Floyd classics quite recently.
I bet that was neat.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That's a good
you
one
close
to
your
do
eyes
outside.
and it's like, okay, he's 25.
Yep.
I saw the Police play, and all the, performances were flawless, but they didn't not one member of the band acknowledged another member of the band once.
Oh,
Which
that's
detracted
interesting.
a bit.
Really?
Yeah. So I think,
So like they're not friends. They're just getting their bag.
I think, sorry, Sting, but
he is a listener, I'm sure.
Right. It sort of spoiled it a little bit. So I think, the lesson is probably maybe the Hollywood Bowl, but you've got to pick your artists carefully,
Sure. Yeah, there's some interesting acts that go on there, but I'm always jealous because, I've never been. So I'm going to have to do that one in the future.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Seattle because you spent a musical weekend there visiting Hendrix sites, Kurt Cobain's house, and Mopop. What is that about?
That was a story I wrote about taking the train from LA overnight to Seattle.
Okay.
Which was really fun. No internet, just sort of reading and sleeping and gazing out the window. It was great. And I hadn't been to Seattle before, and I only really had a day and a half. And I love Hendrix and I love Nirvana, so they were both from that neck of the woods. Both tragically died at 27.
Yep.
So I was able to see a few Hendrix sites where he went to school, and as you say, Kurt Cobain's house. I mean, I didn't want to linger in a sort of bad taste way, but I wanted to see it, and it was moving to see it. And then Mopop, I love that museum. They had a Nirvana exhibition. I don't think it's there anymore, but what struck me about that was, his struggle with depression is well documented, but actually he was really funny. All this stuff. He's like, oh, maybe we'll get Phil Collins on drums, and like.
He had a great sense of humor. Right.
He was like, we're going to do a collaboration with McDonald's, the Nevermind Happy Meal. So that was quite heartening to see some of his notes on fanzines and things. And then they had a Hendrix exhibition, which is a permanent one, where, there's the guitar from the Monterey Pop Festival that he set on fire and all sorts of rock relics like that.
It's really sort of a mecca of rock. Is that? I mean, would you say Seattle is a place you really should go if you're into it?
I mean, absolutely. I can't claim to know Seattle that well, honestly. I just was lucky that I love Jimi Hendrix and I love Nirvana, and that that's kind of the place to go for them for sure. Oh, and while I remember, there's a great Hendrix museum in London, the Handel Hendrix Museum, which the composer Handel lived in the same building, not at the same time, obviously.
Sure.
And Hendrix's apartment is sort of been lovingly restored, and his bed with the sort of paisley and his notes and the full ashtray and his record collection or a sort of a remake of his record collection. You can sort of see what the LPs he had there, and it's that's if you like Hendrix,
that's the spot.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's detour into the center of the country and talk about Tulsa. Tulsa is not a place I would necessarily think of as like music destination.
Yeah.
So what makes it good for that?
Yeah. I didn't know anything about Tulsa really, honestly, before I went. Or not very much. I used to listen to a song called Last Trip to Tulsa by Neil Young when I was a kid, and I'd be like, what's this Tulsa place? I love this
Tulsa?
song, it's like, if you ever need a ride there, be sure to let me know, I was like, oh, what's he talking about? Anyway, so I ended up in Tulsa kind of as a result of that song. I was blown away by the place, Kane's Ballroom, is beautiful, vintage, venue. Had a tour of that, and there's a hole in the wall where Sid Vicious apparently punched.
No way.
Yeah, when they had their sort of slightly disastrous US tour, I think in 1978.
Iconic.
Yeah.
Iconic hole in the wall.
And there are some smaller venues like the Colony where George Harrison and Eric Clapton used to play. I mean, it's really small. little venue, but that's fun. There's the Woody Guthrie Center, which all his lyrics in there, and his there's a violin there with this machine kills fascists, scraped into it. Lots of musical heritage and lots of places to visit for music lovers.
And there's a new Bob Dylan Center?
Yeah. I went before that was there. I would love to go to that.
That would be an interesting one. I really find if you go to these museums that are dedicated to specific artists, even if you don't know them, like them, have never heard a song from them, it makes you appreciate what made them tick.
Yeah.
I went to Tupelo.
Right.
And never really thought much about Elvis other than he existed, and you hear about him once a week at least, in daily life and pop culture.
Yeah.
But just learning about him as a person and his history, it makes me appreciate Elvis music so much more. And now when I hear it, I go back to Tupelo and just think, because I saw his childhood home and the first place he ever took a girl on a date, and you just kind of live somebody else's life, and it makes the music come alive.
Yeah. Oh, I'd love to see Tupelo. I've never been.
You grew up in London.
I did, yeah.
And you went to Ronnie Scott's Jazz Club, and your parents saw Nina Simone there.
They did in the 60s. Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Well, I think that's, I love that place. I love it. It's not very fancy. It's a sort of right in the heart of Soho. But I mean, Hendrix keeps coming up. It was where he played his last show, actually, 2 days, I think, before he passed away, sadly. But so it has this amazing legacy, and yeah, my parents saw Nina Simone. I've seen Jimmy Scott there, Georgie Fame, and also all sorts of unknown jazz trios that you just wander in. And the standard is just always brilliant. It's dimly lit. There's probably 200 capacity. It's quite small.
Wow.
The food's nothing to write home about. It doesn't really matter. The drinks are good.
You're not there for the food, really.
Yeah. I took my dad there last summer, actually, to see a jazz pianist who, I'm afraid her name is escaping me, but he's a pianist, so it was fun to him to see that. But she was doing, covers of quite, surprising artists like Kate Bush and Gary Newman, David Bowie, and so it was sort of something that my dad and I could enjoy together, which was really, really special. Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, it comes down to, like we have been talking about, music bonds you.
Yeah.
Whether you're the same age or from the same place, you can often find common ground.
Yeah.
Through that. Okay.
Absolutely.
So this year marks the Miles Davis centennial. What can you tell us about jazz in New York?
Yeah, I mean, I don't claim to be, a great expert on jazz, but I do love Miles Davis, and I've been listening to a lot here in New York. It just feels like the soundtrack to Manhattan to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, he would have been 100 this year. There are still some venues that exist where he played. There are some that don't exist anymore, unfortunately. But there's Birdland in Midtown, the Village, Vanguard, obviously West Village. There is the Apollo in Harlem. And then there are a couple of hotels that have sort of Miles connections. There's the Carlisle in Upper East Side, where he definitely had some interviews there. I was lucky enough this time to stay there. And so I just was, delighted to even be in his footsteps, even in a slightly, tangential way. But so there's that one. Then there's the Plaza, where he recorded a live album in 1958, Jazz at the Plaza, I think it's called. He kind of shared the bill with, I think, Billie Holiday, Duke Ellington.
I was just thinking of Duke Ellington because of the Take the A Train. And back in my day, we did an event and we took the historic A Train.
Oh.
We had the Duke Ellington, current outfit of them, and they were on the train playing the song. and it was amazing.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So like if you can find those small connections, it opens that whole genre up to you.
Definitely.
It's not something I ever probably would have gotten into. And now I'm like, Duke Ellington.
Right.
Love it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Love that guy. So tell me about some of the memorable experience you've had, but in less obvious music destinations.
Yeah, there's a couple that spring to mind. I covered the opening of a venue called the Casa de Música in Porto, in Portugal, for a UK newspaper. This is 20 years ago, but it was just fantastic because Lou Reed was starting his European tour there, and I'd never seen him play, and I got to see him play, and I actually saw him at the airport carousel, went up to him, said, Lou Reed, I'm such a massive fan. And he kind of grunted at me, kind of did a,
oh.
Yeah. But I mean, I was very happy with the grunt. I was like,
thank
yes,
you.
Lou
Better than
me.
an autograph.
So yeah, I can die and go to heaven now. Lou has grunted at me. So that was memorable in and of itself. But the venue, I mean, is incredible. It's by an architect called Rem Koolhaas. Dutch architect. It looks a bit like the Millennium Falcon or something. Ooh. And the acoustics were amazing. I also think that's a great name for an architect, Rem Koolhaas. I mean,
couldn't be better.
Yeah.
Is that real? Is that a real name, or is that a stage name?
Right. I'm gonna build a cool house. What's your name, Rem Koolhaas? You're hired.
Right. That can't be real. That's amazing.
And then I had a great time when I was teaching English in Mexico. I was, I think, 21. And I was invited to go to a rodeo. And I wasn't sure, it was salsa music and norteño. I didn't know how to dance to that. I still don't. But it didn't seem to matter. We had a great time. People were so lovely and inviting. And it really struck me because people were dancing together. It was really open and relaxed. And I was used to sort of London clubs where at the time in the 90s, people were sort of reaching for the lasers, and it was all sort of people out cooling each other and dancing on their own,
Yeah.
So this was just the poles apart from that. And I just had a fantastic time.
It felt a little more genuine of an experience, I guess.
Yeah, this was in Tabasco, Villahermosa, Tabasco. So, not many tourists in that area at that time. So it felt like, I suppose an authentic experience. It's very overused, isn't it?
Sure.
But it did feel that way.
Like you got to know more the soul of the place and the people.
It opened me up to Mexico. I was just like, okay, I'm here now. I'm in it. This is fun. Yeah.
Well, so what advice do you have for travelers who want to find those change your life, change your mind, change your perspective moments when they're traveling when it comes to music?
Yeah, I mean, there's just a certain amount of randomness and serendipity sometimes. I think just talk to people. If someone invites you to a show, even if it's not music you necessarily love or think you love, you might be surprised in a good way. I kind of miss that era in the 90s where, pre-internet, or the internet's very young, where it was very much word of mouth.
Yeah.
You kind of were forced to talk to people to find out where the music spots were, or where to eat or anything really.
Yeah. Or what bands are out and about and who's doing things. Yeah, that's a really good point, because now you can just follow anybody on Instagram and
It's almost too much information.
Instant
sometimes.
access, right. It is a lot of info.
Yeah.
So beyond live gigs, do you have any thoughts on unmissable museums that are dedicated to music? I find museums similar to going to Tupelo. It just changes my perspective and then makes me a fan of that artist if I wasn't before.
There's the Musical Instrument Museum in Brussels, which is a sort of amazing Victorian building. I think it was a department store. And it's got everything from sort of harpsichords from the 1800s to, Moog synthesizers from 1970s.
Right.
So that's quite a fun one, just to sort of wander around. What other ones? Well, my wife was desperate to go and see the ABBA Museum, and we went, and it was closed.
Oh, no.
So, I have to admit, not a big fan, so it wasn't
But
a
you
huge
really would be after you went.
Would I?
Because I did go.
Oh, you did?
I
Okay.
did. And it's so fun.
Is it?
It is. It's exactly what you think it's going to be.
Right.
But just louder and everybody's so excited.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
because there's big fans there.
Yeah.
And and now
Excellent.
when I hear it, I'm right back in the museum. I'm right back in Sweden.
Perfect.
It's fun.
Okay, next time.
You
for
got to
sure.
do it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Especially if she wants to do it.
Yeah. I
They
know I
have-
sound like a massive music snob now.
No. I get it because, we were planning on going because it's
Yeah.
the thing you do
Yeah.
when you go to
It is.
Stockholm. They're like,
Right.
you have to go to that and you have to go to the Vasa Museum
Yes.
next door, the shipwreck. Incredible,
Oh, yes.
right?
Amazing.
Which I'm like, I don't really care about that.
Yeah.
And I don't know how much I care about ABBA. And then I care about both of those things a lot,
Right, yeah.
and I could answer those questions on Jeopardy
Right.
if anybody wants to know about the shipwreck.
Right.
So I'm there for that. But
Yeah, win-win.
what other museums can you think of?
Well, I mentioned the Hendrix one.
Mm-hmm.
I want to sort of hammer that home because it's a great one.
What other cities around the world should music travelers be looking into and considering?
Well, there's a few definitely on my list that I can think of. The first is Santiago in Cuba. I did visit Cuba perhaps 20 years ago, and I looked at the map and thought, I'm going to Santiago. But the roads did not allow it. So
That's a tough one.
I overstretched myself.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'd love to go back and see all that Cuban music in Santiago for sure. I'd love to go to Vienna. Apparently you can see a Mozart concert in the Mozart house where he composed and performed, and that just seems magical idea to me. Glasgow is having a good year, 2026. My mum's from Glasgow, so it has to be the best city in the world, obviously.
That's how that works. Indeed.
The Happy Mondays are playing, one of my favorites. Kraftwerk are playing. Neil Young is playing this summer at Bella Houston Park. So yeah, a lot of great artists will be there this year. So yeah, I think Glasgow is definitely on the map for music.
You've got a lot on your bucket list / agenda.
Yes.
There's never an end to it.
There isn't.
As I've been discovering just with a travel list in general.
Yeah.
You're never going to go to all the places, but you sure can try.
You can, and you must.
Ready to book your next music-themed vacation? Be sure to tune in next week as Edmund shares his top 5 music venues that are worth building an entire trip around. You'll hear about the spaces where acoustics, atmosphere, and history come together to create truly memorable souvenirs.